Hyunwoo Kim wiped the grease from his hands with an old rag and looked at the clock on the maintenance bay wall. 3 hours until his shift ended. 3 more hours of fixing broken things that other people had given up on. The orbital station never slept. Even at this late hour, the corridors buzzed with activity. Traders from dozens of worlds came and went through the docking bays. Passengers waited for transport ships. Workers like Hyunwoo kept everything running. He had been working the night shift for 2 years now. The pay was good enough, and he liked the quiet. During the day, the maintenance bay was full of noise and supervisors asking questions. At night, it was just him and the machines that needed fixing. Hyunwoo was good with machines. He could look at any broken device and understand what was wrong. His hands knew exactly which tool to use and where to apply pressure. The other workers called him a natural. He just called it common sense. Tonight felt different, though. He had been saving money for months, hoping to buy a decent bike. The station was huge, and walking everywhere took forever. A good bike would change everything. He could visit So Young more often instead of taking the slow transport pods. He could explore the recreation areas he had only heard about. The problem was the price. Every bike he had looked at cost more than he made in 3 months. The good ones with quantum gears and propulsion assists were completely out of reach. He had started to think he would be walking forever. That was when Kelth found him. The Vortani trader appeared in the maintenance bay doorway like a shadow. Hyunwoo looked up from the air recycler he was fixing and saw 4 thin arms waving nervously. Kelth was smaller than most Vortani, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes that seemed to look everywhere at once. "Human worker," Kelth said in broken Korean. "You fix things, yes?" "Depends what needs fixing," Hyunwoo replied. He had learned to be careful with alien traders. Some of them tried to get free repairs by acting friendly. Kelth stepped closer, and Hyunwoo could see that all 4 of his hands were shaking. "Not fixing, selling. I have something you want." "I doubt that." "Bike," Kelth said quickly. "Very good bike. Quantum gears. Propulsion assist. Everything you need." Hyunwoo set down his tools. "How did you know I was looking for a bike?" "Small station. People talk." Kelth's voice was getting faster, more nervous. "You want to see?" Against his better judgment, Hyunwoo followed the alien out of the maintenance bay. They walked through 3 levels of corridors until they reached the cargo section. Here the ceiling was higher, and the walls were lined with storage units. The air smelled of metal and ozone. Kelth stopped at a unit near the end of the row. He pressed his palm against the scanner, and the door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside was the most beautiful bike Hyunwoo had ever seen. The frame was sleek and dark, made from what looked like a carbon steel hybrid that seemed to absorb light. The wheels were perfect circles of some material he did not recognize. The seat and handlebars curved in exactly the right way. Everything about it looked fast and smooth and expensive. "How much?" Hyunwoo asked, trying to keep his voice calm. 800 credits. Hyunwoo stared at him. "A bike like this should cost 10 times that amount. Maybe 20 times. What's wrong with it?" "Nothing wrong," Kelth said. But his 4 hands were shaking even more now. "Just need to sell quickly." "Why?" "Personal reasons." Hyunwoo walked around the bike slowly. He ran his hands over the frame, checking for cracks or damage. He examined the gears and the chain and the brake system. Everything looked perfect. "Better than perfect. This is stolen," he said. "No." Kelth's voice cracked. "Not stolen. Mine to sell. Have papers." He pulled out a data pad and showed Hyunwoo the ownership documents. They looked real enough, though Hyunwoo could not read Vortani script. The trader's name was clearly marked, along with what seemed to be purchase records and maintenance logs. Then why so cheap? Kelth looked around nervously, as if someone might be watching them. "Need money fast. Leaving station tomorrow. Must sell tonight." There was something in the alien's voice that made Hyunwoo pause. Fear. Real, deep fear. Whatever Kelth was running from, it was serious enough to make him sell a fortune for pocket change. Hyunwoo should have walked away. He should have asked more questions. He should have wondered why anyone would be so desperate to get rid of something so valuable. Instead, he thought about So Young. About exploring the station. About finally having something that was truly his own instead of just another broken machine to fix. 700, he said. "Deal." Kelth's relief was obvious. "You have credits now?" Hyunwoo pulled out his account pad and transferred the money. It was almost everything he had saved, but the bike was worth it. Had to be worth it. Kelth accepted the transfer with shaking hands. He seemed to be in a hurry now, gathering up the bike's documentation and a small toolkit that came with it. "Thank you," he said, but he would not meet Hyun-woo's eyes. "You take good care of it, yes?" "Of course." Kelth started to leave, then turned back. His large dark eyes looked sad and worried. "Human worker. Be careful with bike. Very careful. Maybe sometimes it does things you do not expect." "What kind of things?" But Kelth was already walking away, his forearms wrapped around himself like he was cold. Hyun-woo called after him, but the alien disappeared around a corner without looking back. Hyun-woo stood alone with his new bike in the storage unit. The silence felt heavy. He tried to shake off the strange feeling that something was wrong. Kelth was just a nervous trader trying to make a quick sale. Aliens were weird sometimes. Everyone knew that. He wheeled the bike out of the storage unit and sealed the door behind him. The machine rolled smoothly, responding to the lightest touch. The handlebars felt perfect in his hands. By the time he reached his quarters, Hyun-woo had convinced himself that he had made a great deal. The bike was beautiful and fast in his. Whatever had scared Kelth was the alien's problem, not his. He parked the bike in his small living space and stood back to admire it. In the morning, he would take it for a real ride. He would see what those quantum gears could do. For now, he was just happy to own something amazing, something that was completely his own. He went to sleep that night with a smile on his face, never noticing that the bike's display screen flickered once in the darkness before going still. Hyun-woo woke up the next morning feeling excited for the first time in months. The bike stood in the corner of his small quarters, looking even more impressive in the daylight. He had dreamed about riding it through the station's corridors, feeling the wind rush past his face. After a quick breakfast, he wheeled the bike out into the hallway. The moment he climbed on, he knew something was different. The seat seemed to adjust itself to fit his body perfectly. The handlebars moved slightly, finding exactly the right position for his hands. He started pedaling slowly down the corridor. The bike moved like it was floating. Every gear change was smoother than silk. When he leaned into a turn, the bike seemed to lean with him before he even shifted his weight. Just good engineering, he told himself as he rode toward the recreation section. But as the days passed, the bike's behavior became harder to explain. It would slow down before he reached intersections, as if it knew other people were coming around the corner. When he rode past the viewing windows, it seemed to steer itself slightly toward them, like it wanted to look outside. The strangest thing happened on his third day of riding. Hyun-woo was pedaling through a maintenance tunnel when his tool belt got caught on the seat. He started to lose his balance, ready to crash into the wall. But the bike corrected itself, staying upright without any input from him. He stopped and sat there for a long moment, his heart beating fast. Bikes did not balance themselves. They could not think or react. They were just machines. That evening, So Young came to visit him after her classes at the university. She was studying xenobiology, which meant she knew more about alien technology than most people. Hyun-woo hoped she could explain what was happening. "It is probably just very advanced Fortani engineering," she said as she examined the bike. "They are known for making machines that seem almost alive." So Young was small and smart, with short black hair and curious eyes that missed nothing. She ran her hands along the bike frame, looking for sensors or processors that might explain its behavior. "Look at this," she said, pointing to what looked like decorative patterns carved into the metal. "These might not be decorations at all. They could be some kind of neural network." "Neural network? Like a simple brain?" "Very simple, but enough to make the bike respond to your movements and riding style." That made sense to Hyun-woo. He had heard that some alien technology was more advanced than human designs. A bike with basic learning abilities was strange but not impossible. Over the next few days, he tried to pay less attention to the bike's unusual responses. When it anticipated his turns, he told himself it was learning his habits. When it seemed to slow down at the right moments, he decided it had advanced sensors. But then things started getting weird in ways that sensors could not explain. Hyun-woo began finding himself in the garage at odd hours, just staring at the bike. He would go to bed planning to sleep late, then wake up at 3 a.m. with a strong urge to check on it. Sometimes he would stand there for an hour, running his hands over the frame and wondering why he felt so connected to a machine. The bike seemed to respond to his moods too. On days when he was tired from work, it would be especially smooth and easy to ride. When he was frustrated with his supervisor, the bike would accelerate more aggressively, as if it understood his anger. One morning, So Young found him in the garage again. She had used her student access code to enter his quarters when he did not answer his door. "You were supposed to meet me for breakfast an hour ago," she said. Hyunwoo looked up, confused. He had no memory of coming to the garage or how long he had been there. "I was just checking the gears. For an hour? Has it been that long?" So Young sat down on a storage crate and looked at him with concern. "Hyunwoo, you have been acting strange since you bought that bike. You talk about it all the time. You spend more time with it than with me." "That is not true. When was the last time we went to dinner together?" He tried to remember but could not. Every evening after work, he found himself coming to the garage instead of calling So Young. He would tell himself he was just going to clean the bike or check something, then lose track of time. "Maybe there is something wrong with me," he said quietly. "Or maybe there is something wrong with the bike." So Young stood up and walked around the machine slowly. She pulled out a small scanner from her study bag and ran it over the frame. The device beeped softly as it detected various systems and components. "The energy readings are very high," she said, frowning at the display. "Much higher than they should be for a simple transportation device. What does that mean?" "I am not sure, but I think we should take this to the university lab. My professor has equipment that can analyze alien technology properly." Hyunwoo felt a sudden surge of panic. "No, I do not want strangers touching it." "Hyunwoo, listen to yourself. You are talking about it like it is alive." "Maybe it is." The words came out before he could stop them. So Young stared at him with wide eyes. "What did you just say?" "Nothing. I meant maybe it has advanced AI or something." But even as he said it, Hyunwoo knew that was not what he meant. Deep down, in a part of his mind he did not want to examine too closely, he was starting to believe that the bike was more than just a machine. It felt aware. It felt like it was watching him. "I think you should stay away from it for a few days," So Young said gently, "just to clear your head." "I cannot do that. Why not?" Hyunwoo looked at the bike and felt something he could not name. Need, maybe. Or loyalty. The idea of leaving it alone in the garage felt wrong, like abandoning a friend. "I just cannot," he said. So Young sighed and put her scanner away. "Then promise me you will be careful. Whatever this thing is, it is affecting you. That worries me." After she left, Hyunwoo sat alone with the bike in the quiet garage. The machine looked innocent enough in the dim light. Just metal and plastic and composite materials, but he could swear he felt something radiating from it. Not heat or electricity, but something else. Something that felt almost like companionship. He reached out and touched the handlebars. For just a moment, the bike's display screen flickered to life, showing patterns that looked almost like writing. Then it went dark again. "What are you?" he whispered to the empty air. The bike gave no answer, but somehow Hyunwoo felt like it had heard him. 3 weeks after buying the bike, Hyunwoo decided to take it for a long ride through the outer ring of the station. He needed to clear his head. So Young had been asking more questions about his strange behavior, and he was running out of explanations. The outer ring was his favorite part of the station. It had huge viewing windows that showed the stars and passing ships. During quiet hours like this, he could ride for kilometers without seeing another person. He pedaled slowly, enjoying the smooth response of the quantum gears. The bike seemed especially cooperative today, shifting perfectly with every change in terrain. Sometimes Hyunwoo wondered if he was imagining its intelligence. Maybe he just wanted it to be special so badly that his mind was creating patterns that were not really there. As he approached the main observation deck, something caught his eye outside the window. A ship was approaching the station, but it looked different from the usual traffic. This vessel was dark and angular, with surfaces that seemed to absorb light instead of reflecting it. The moment Hyunwoo saw the ship, his bike began acting strangely. It started pulling toward the viewing window as if it wanted to get closer. He tried to steer away, but the handlebars resisted his grip. "What are you doing?" he muttered, fighting to control the bike. Then the impossible happened. The bike's display screen came to life, showing symbols that hurt his eyes to look at. They twisted and changed, forming patterns that seemed to move on their own. Hyunwoo had never seen anything like them. He stopped pedaling and stared at the screen. The symbols continued shifting for several seconds, then suddenly changed into something he could understand. Korean text appeared, clear and simple. "They found me." Hyunwoo nearly fell off the bike. He looked around the empty corridor, thinking someone was playing a joke on him. But there was no one else there. Just him and the bike and the words on the screen. "Who found you?" He whispered. More text appeared. The hunters. I thought I was safe here. I was wrong. Hyun-woo's hands were shaking as he gripped the handlebars. You can understand me. Yes, I have been listening since you bought me from Kelth. You are kind, Hyun-woo Kim. Kinder than I expected. What are you? The screen flickered and for a moment the alien symbols returned. Then the Korean text came back, slower this time, as if the bike was choosing its words carefully. My name is Yunjin. I am Vortani like Kelth, but I am different from others of my kind. I am alone. Hyun-woo looked out the viewing window at the dark ship which was getting closer to the docking bays. Is that ship looking for you? Yes. They have been hunting me for many cycles. I hid my consciousness in this bike's quantum matrix, hoping they would not find me. But they are very good at tracking their own kind. Why are they hunting you? The text took longer to appear this time. Because I refused to join the collective. Because I chose to remain individual. Hyun-woo did not understand what that meant, but he could sense fear in the bike's responses. The words appeared more quickly now, almost frantically. Your people do not understand. Vortani society is built on unity. We share one mind, one purpose. Individual thought is considered sickness, madness. Those who resist joining the collective are hunted and eliminated. But you resisted? I wanted to think my own thoughts, feel my own emotions. The collective said this was wrong, dangerous. They said I would spread the disease of individuality to others. Hyun-woo felt a chill run down his spine. He thought about his own life, his own choices and dreams and mistakes. The idea of sharing his mind with others, of losing his individual self, terrified him. So you ran away? A friend helped me escape. He transferred my consciousness into various devices, moving me from place to place. The bike was supposed to be temporary, but the hunters found my last hiding place. Kelth was supposed to take me to a safe world, but he panicked when he saw the hunter ship. That is why he sold you so cheap. He was trying to save me, and himself. The hunters do not forgive those who help individuals escape. Hyun-woo looked out the window again. The dark ship had docked with the station. Soon whoever was on board would begin searching for Yunjin. What happens if they find you? They will drag my consciousness back to the collective. I will lose everything that makes me myself. I will become part of the group mind, thinking only what they allow me to think. The fear in those words was unmistakable. Hyun-woo found himself feeling angry on behalf of this alien he had never seen. The idea of forcing someone to give up their individuality seemed like the worst kind of cruelty. How many of them are there? 3 hunters on the ship. They will spread out through the station, scanning for traces of my consciousness. They have equipment that can detect Vortani neural patterns. What can I do to help? The screen went blank for a long moment. When text appeared again, it seemed surprised. You want to help me? Of course. Nobody should be forced to give up who they are, but you barely know me, and helping me will put you in danger. Hyun-woo thought about that. He had a good job and a girlfriend who cared about him. His life was simple but comfortable. Getting involved with alien fugitives could ruin everything. But he also thought about what it would feel like to lose his own mind, his own thoughts and memories and dreams. He thought about being forced to become part of something larger, losing everything that made him Hyun-woo Kim. Where can we hide? He asked. The maintenance tunnels in the lower levels. They are shielded and hard to scan. But Hyun-woo, you must understand the risk. If the hunters catch you helping me, they will not just take me. They will eliminate you as a threat to their mission. Let me worry about that. Hyun-woo started pedaling toward the service elevators, his mind already working on a plan. He knew the station's maintenance areas better than almost anyone. If they were careful and smart, maybe they could stay hidden until the hunters gave up and left. Thank you appeared on the screen. I have been alone for so long. I forgot what it felt like to have someone care about my freedom. You are not alone anymore, Hyun-woo said quietly. As they rode toward the lower levels, he realized that his life had just become much more complicated. But for the first time since buying the bike, he felt like he understood what was happening. He was not just helping a machine. He was helping a friend. Hyun-woo guided the bike through the service elevators down to the lowest maintenance level of the station. The air was thicker here, full of the smell of recycled atmosphere and machine oil. Pipes and conduits ran along the walls like metal veins. Most people never came down this far. This should hide us for a while, he said as they entered a storage area filled with spare parts. Text appeared on the bike's screen. The hunters will scan every level systematically. We have maybe 2 hours before they reach this section. Hyunwoo parked the bike behind a pile of old air filters and sat down on a crate. His heart was still beating fast from the shock of learning the truth. A few hours ago, his biggest worry was whether So Young was angry at him. Now he was hiding an alien refugee from professional hunters. "Tell me more about these hunters," he said. "What exactly are we dealing with?" "Their names are Taeho, Minsu, and Dongwoo. They were individual Vortani once, like me. But they chose to join the collective many cycles ago. Now they share thoughts and move as one mind." "That sounds horrible." "To you, yes. To them it is perfection. They believe individual consciousness causes pain and conflict. The collective gives them peace and purpose." Hyunwoo tried to imagine sharing his thoughts with other people all the time, never being alone in his own head, never having private dreams or secret fears. How do they even function? Very efficiently. They can coordinate without speaking. They never disagree or waste time on debate. When one learns something, they all know it instantly. But they gave up being themselves. They would say they became something greater, part of a perfect society where everyone works together for common goals. The idea made Hyunwoo feel sick. What about creativity? Art, love? How can you have those things without individual minds? You cannot. The collective produces nothing new. They copy and preserve, but they do not create. They care for each other as parts of a machine, but they do not love as individuals do. A soft alarm echoed through the maintenance tunnels. Someone had accessed the service elevators. The hunters had started their search of the lower levels. "We need to move." Yoonjin's text appeared urgently. Hyunwoo wheeled the bike deeper into the maintenance area, following passages he knew by heart from years of repair work. They passed through sections filled with water recyclers, atmosphere processors, and power distribution nodes. The mechanical noise would help mask their presence. "Can you contact So Young?" Text appeared on the screen. "Why?" "She studies alien biology. She might know more about Vortani technology than you realize. We need information about how the hunters track their targets." Hyunwoo pulled out his communication device and sent So Young a message asking her to meet him in the old workshop on level 12. He tried to make it sound casual, like he just wanted to show her something interesting about the bike. 20 minutes later, So Young arrived looking confused and worried. "Hyunwoo, what are we doing down here? And why are you acting so strange? I need to tell you something that will sound crazy. Try me." Hyunwoo took a deep breath and explained everything. The bike's intelligence, the conversation, the hunters, and Yoonjin's story about escaping the collective. So Young listened without interrupting, her expression growing more serious with each detail. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she walked over to the bike and knelt down next to it. "Yoonjin, can you hear me?" Text appeared on the screen. "Yes, So Young. I apologize for the deception. I did not want to frighten you. You did not frighten me. You made me curious." So Young pulled out her scanner and began taking readings. "These neural patterns are unlike anything in my textbooks. Your consciousness is more complex than most AI systems I have studied. I am not artificial. I was born as you were with natural neural development. I simply exist now in a different form." So Young studied the scanner data for several minutes. The collective hunters. How do they track individual consciousness? They use resonance detectors that can identify unique neural frequencies. Every Vortani mind has a distinct pattern, like fingerprints for humans. Can the pattern be disguised? Not easily. The detectors are very sensitive, So Young looked thoughtful. What about interference? If we could generate enough neural static, could that mask your presence? Possibly, but it would require precise calibration of electromagnetic fields. Too little and they will detect me. Too much and they will investigate the source of the interference. I might be able to help with that. The university has equipment for studying brain activity in different alien species. If I can access the xenobiology lab, I could build a neural disruptor. Hyunwoo felt a surge of hope. That could work. It is dangerous, Yoonjin warned. If the hunters catch So Young helping us, they will not show mercy. I understand the risks, So Young said firmly. But I cannot stand by and watch someone lose their freedom. That goes against everything I believe. As they made plans, Hyunwoo found himself thinking about what Yoonjin had said earlier. Humans understood freedom. They fought for the right to be different. Looking at So Young now, ready to risk everything for a stranger, he realized how true that was. There is something else. Yoonjin's text interrupted his thoughts. The hunters do not just want to capture me. They want to understand how I have survived alone for so long. If they learn that humans helped me, They may decide your species poses a threat to collective ideology. What would that mean? Hyunwoo asked. They might recommend that the collective take action against humanity. Your people's emphasis on individual rights and freedoms makes you dangerous to their way of thinking. So Young and Hyunwoo looked at each other with growing alarm. What had started as a personal rescue mission was becoming something much larger. How many Vortani are in the collective? So Young asked. Millions. Their technology is very advanced. If they decided humanity was a threat to their society, they could cause serious problems for your worlds. All the more reason to make sure you stay free, Hyunwoo said. If you can prove that individuals can survive and thrive outside the collective, maybe others will start to question the system. That is what I hope. But first we must survive the next few hours. The sound of footsteps echoed through the maintenance tunnels, growing closer. The hunters had found their general area and were searching methodically through each section. Time to go, Hyunwoo said, climbing back onto the bike. So Young gathered her equipment. I will head to the lab and start working on the neural disruptor. Stay hidden and keep moving. I will contact you when I have something. As she disappeared into the maze of corridors, Hyunwoo realized that their small group had just become something unprecedented. A human, an alien refugee, and a student scientist working together to fight against a collective that wanted to erase individual thought. The stakes had never been higher. The hunters found them 2 hours later in the main maintenance bay, where Hyunwoo worked every night. He had hoped the familiar environment would give him an advantage, but the three Vortani moved through the space like they owned it. Taeho, Minsu, and Dongwoo looked similar to Kelth but moved differently. Their steps were perfectly synchronized. When one turned his head, the others turned at exactly the same moment. Their forearms moved in identical patterns like they were parts of the same machine. Individual consciousness detected, Taeho said in perfect Korean. His voice was flat and emotionless. Surrender the device and you will not be harmed. Hyunwoo stood between the hunters and his bike, holding a plasma wrench in his hands. It was not much of a weapon, but it was better than nothing. She is not a device. She is a person. It is corrupted data that must be corrected, Minsu replied. Step aside, human worker. No. The three hunters tilted their heads in unison, studying him like he was an interesting but broken machine. Your attachment to the corrupted individual is irrational. You gain nothing by protecting it. I gain the knowledge that I did the right thing. Right and wrong are collective decisions. Individual judgment leads to chaos and suffering. Dongwoo stepped forward, pulling out a device that looked like a scanner. The corrupted consciousness will be extracted and processed. Resistance is futile and harmful. That was when Hyunwoo realized something important about the collective hunters. They thought exactly alike, which meant they could be predicted. They expected him to either surrender or try to fight them directly. They did not expect creative solutions. Yoonjin, he said quietly, can you access the maintenance systems from here? Text appeared on the bike's screen. Yes, what do you need? Gravity generators. Can you turn them on and off in specific sections? I can try. But what are you planning? Hyunwoo grinned. After years of fixing broken systems, he knew every pipe, conduit, and control junction in this part of the station. The hunters might be smarter and faster, but this was his territory. Trust me. He activated his plasma wrench and cut through a support cable that held up a heavy section of ceiling panels. The metal crashed down between him and two of the hunters, separating them from their partner. Gravity off in Section 7, he called out. Taeho suddenly found himself floating in zero gravity, his synchronized movements useless without the ability to push off from solid surfaces. He flailed helplessly as Hyunwoo grabbed the bike and wheeled it toward the exit. Gravity on in Section 3, he said as they passed under another ceiling panel. Minsu dropped back to the floor hard, stumbling as the sudden return of weight threw off his balance. The collective hunters had trained to move together in normal conditions, but they had no experience with rapidly changing environments. Dongwoo was still pursuing them, adapting faster than his partners. Hyunwoo led him into the pipe maintenance area, where steam from the life support systems created thick clouds of vapor. Can you control the maintenance drones? He asked Yoonjin. Working on it now. Suddenly, a dozen repair drones came to life throughout the area. They were simple machines designed to weld pipes and clear blockages, but they made excellent distractions. They swarmed around Dongwoo, not attacking but getting in his way and confusing his sensors. Your tactics are chaotic and unpredictable, Dongwu called out through the steam. This proves the danger of individual thought. Maybe that is exactly the point, Hyunwoo replied. He led the hunter deeper into the maintenance maze, using every trick he had learned in years of repair work. He opened steam vents to create barriers of hot vapor. He activated cleaning systems that sprayed lubricant on the floors, making them slippery. He even turned on the waste recycling pumps, filling the air with unpleasant smells that distracted the hunter's sensitive alien nose. By the time they reached the central power distribution room, all three hunters had regrouped and were working together again, but Hyunwoo had been waiting for this moment. Yoonjin, can you access the communication array? Yes, but it will expose my presence to their scanners. Do it anyway. I have an idea. The bike's display screen flickered with activity as Yoonjin connected to the station's main communication system. Immediately, the hunter's scanning equipment began beeping wildly as they detected her neural signature. Found you, Taeho said with satisfaction. But Hyunwoo had counted on that. Now broadcast your own neural pattern through every speaker and screen on the I station. That will overload the system. Exactly. Yoonjin's consciousness flooded through the station's communication network, her unique neural signature appearing on thousands of screens and speakers simultaneously. The hunter's scanners went crazy, showing her presence in every corridor, every room, every maintenance shaft. More importantly, the feedback loop created by broadcasting a live Vortani consciousness through electronic systems began affecting the hunters themselves. Their shared mental connection, which depended on precise neural synchronization, started breaking down under the interference. For the first time since entering the station, Taeho, Minsu, and Dongwoo began moving independently. They looked around in confusion as their collective thoughts became scrambled and unclear. What is happening? Minsu asked, and his voice carried emotion for the first time. I do not know, Taeho replied, and Hyunwoo could hear fear in his words. I am alone, Dongwoo whispered. I am alone in my own head. The three hunters backed away from each other, experiencing individual consciousness for the first time in years. Without the collective to guide them, they were lost and terrified. This is what freedom feels like, Hyunwoo told them. Scary at first, but it gets better. The hunters did not listen. They ran from the maintenance bay, fleeing back toward their ship. They could not handle being individuals even for a few minutes. Hyunwoo and Yoonjin watched them go, both exhausted from the chase. How did you know that would work? Text appeared on the screen. I did not, but I figured their biggest weakness would be what they thought was their greatest strength. They were so used to thinking together that they forgot how to think alone. You fought them with chaos and creativity, things the collective cannot understand or predict. That is what humans do best. We improvise. I am beginning to understand why your species values individual thought so highly. Each person sees problems differently and finds unique solutions. Hyunwoo smiled as he wheeled the bike toward the exit. Now you are thinking like a human. But even as they celebrated their victory, he knew the danger was not over. The hunters would recover and report back to the collective. Soon more would come looking for Yoonjin. They needed a permanent solution, and they needed it fast. 2 days after the hunters fled, station security came looking for Hyunwoo. He was in his quarters trying to figure out what to do next when 3 officers knocked on his door. Hyunwoo Kim, you need to come with us, the lead officer said. There have been complaints about stolen alien property. Hyunwoo's heart sank. He looked at Yoonjin, who had been quiet since the confrontation with the hunters. Her screen flickered with what he had learned to recognize as anxiety. What property? He asked, though he already knew the answer. A Vortani transportation device. The original owners have filed a formal complaint with the station administration. The collective had not given up. When their hunters failed, they had decided to use legal pressure instead. Hyunwoo was escorted to the security office, where a grim-faced administrator waited with official documents. Mr. Kim, you purchased a stolen bike from a Vortani trader named Kelth, the administrator said. The rightful owners want it returned immediately. It was not stolen. I have the purchase records. Kelth did not have legal authority to sell it. The bike contains collective property that must be returned. Hyunwoo wanted to argue, but he knew it was useless. The station depended on good relations with all alien species. They would not risk a diplomatic incident over one human maintenance worker. The bike will be confiscated and returned to the Vortani representatives. The administrator continued. You may file a complaint to recover your purchase price, but that could take months to process. You do not understand. This is not just about money. Mr. Kim, it is just a bike. But it was not just a bike, and Hyunwoo could not explain why without revealing Yoonjin's secret. If the authorities knew there was a conscious being inside the machine, they might study her or turn her over to xenobiology researchers. That would be almost as bad as returning her to the collective. So Young was waiting when he returned to his quarters with the confiscated bike under security escort. The officers placed it in the center of the room and activated a containment field around it. You have until tomorrow morning to gather any personal items, one officer said. Then it goes back to the Vortani ship. After they left, Hyunwoo and So Young stared at the trapped bike in silence. Text appeared on Yoonjin's screen, visible through the containment field. I am sorry. This is my fault. No, Hyunwoo said firmly. You did not choose to be hunted. What happens now? So Young asked. More text appeared. They will take me back to the collective ship. My consciousness will be extracted and processed. I will become part of the group mind. There has to be something we can do. The containment field is too strong, and even if you could break me out, where would we go? The collective will never stop hunting me. Hyunwoo sat down heavily in his chair. After everything they had been through, it felt wrong to give up now. But what could 3 people do against an entire alien civilization? That was when So Young had an idea. What if we do not hide you from the collective? She said. What if we take you somewhere they cannot follow? Explain. Text appeared on the screen. Earth. The collective has no legal authority there. Human space is independent. But how would we get there? Hyunwoo asked. The next transport to Earth is not for 2 weeks, and they will take Yoonjin tomorrow. So Young smiled. My professor has a research ship leaving for Earth tonight. She is taking biological samples back to the university. I could ask her to take some extra cargo. You would do that for me? Yoonjin's text showed surprise. You are not cargo. You are a friend. The plan was risky but simple. So Young would convince her professor to let them smuggle Yoonjin aboard the research ship. Once on Earth, they could find a way to give her a more permanent body and a safe place to live. But what about the containment field? Hyunwoo asked. Leave that to me, So Young said. She had been working on the neural disruptor for days, learning everything she could about Vortani technology. While Hyunwoo distracted the security cameras, she attached a small device to the containment field generator. This will not break the field, she explained, but it will make it look like the field is still active while actually being turned off. We will have maybe 10 minutes before someone notices. At midnight, they put their plan into action. So Young activated her device, and the containment field flickered off while its display continued showing that it was running. Normally, Hyunwoo quickly wheeled Yoonjin out of his quarters and through the service corridors toward the research docks. So Young had already spoken to her professor, explaining that she needed to transport some sensitive equipment to Earth for analysis. The research ship will be perfect. Text appeared on Yoonjin's screen as they moved through the empty hallways. Scientific vessels are not searched as carefully as passenger ships. They reached the docking bay just as Professor Lee was finishing the pre-flight checks on her ship. She was an older woman with kind eyes who had always encouraged So Young's curiosity about alien life. Is this the equipment you mentioned? She asked, looking at the bike. Yes, Professor. It contains some very unique neural patterns that need to be studied on Earth. Well, load it up then. We launch in 20 minutes. As Hyunwoo secured the bike in the cargo hold, he realized this might be the last time he saw Yoonjin. The thought made him sadder than he had expected. Will you be okay on Earth? He asked. I think so. Your professor seems kind, and So Young will help me adjust to my new life. I wish I could come with you. You have a job here, a life. I cannot ask you to give that up for me. Hyunwoo touched the bike's handlebars one last time. You never asked. I am offering. Someone should be there to help you learn about being human. Text appeared slowly on the screen. You would leave your home for me? You are family now. Family sticks together. 30 minutes later, Hyunwoo found himself aboard a research ship heading for Earth, leaving behind everything he had ever known. So Young sat next to him, holding his hand as they watched the station shrink behind them. No regrets? She asked. None, he said, and meant it. In the cargo hold, Yoonjin's screen displayed a simple message. Thank you for showing me what freedom means. 6 months later. Yunwoo was working in a small garage on Earth, fixing bikes and other vehicles for the local community. Yoonjin had a new body now, a humanoid android that let her move around and interact with the world directly. She was still learning to be human, but she was learning fast. She had developed her own interests and opinions, made friends, and even started helping other refugees who came to Earth seeking freedom. On weekends, they would go for long rides through the countryside, two friends enjoying the simple pleasure of movement and wind and open sky. Sometimes they talked about the collective and whether other Vortani might someday choose individual freedom over group unity. Change takes time, Yoonjin would say, but every person who chooses to think for themselves makes it easier for the next one. Yunwoo always smiled when she said things like that. She was not just learning to be human. She was learning to be herself, and that made everything they had been through worthwhile.